Hello again, everyone. This is me again, Asam Helmi, a success partner with OBA Energy. I'd like to welcome you all to this interesting and a special webinar with our guest speaker, Ms. Ana de Sosa. Thanks for joining us for this interesting webinar. I'd like to make sure that you all see my screen, so please type in the chat area. Do you guys see my screen and hear me clearly? Yeah, Muhammad, thank you. So I will be starting now. So I will start by giving a typical presentation. If someone here is attending with us before, this is like a typical presentation we make every webinar about the services that OBA Energy as a technical and training provider provides for everyone. Uh, you can see here our dashboard in terms of numbers and the services that we provide. We have teams in different countries. We are available on social media platforms, different platforms. We already conducted a long series of free webinars. You can see that we have more than 65 free webinars available on our YouTube channel, and this webinar as well is available also as live webinar on our YouTube now. Is streaming. We have conducted mentorship programs, internship programs. We already reached everywhere worldwide, as you see in the down right side of my screen. Uh, a very interesting uh, set of courses that we will be providing in the upcoming 2 months and during May and June. We have four interesting courses. First one is water flooding design and optimization that will be starting in the 13th of May and end by the 18th of May. Also, a very interesting course in the artificial lift technology titled the gas depth theory, operation and design that will be during May also, starting in 27th of May and end by the 1st of June. Two more interesting courses, advanced integrated formation evaluation that will be in June, starting in the 10th of June and ending by the 15th of June. The last course for this wave of courses provided by OBA Energy is Advanced Well Intervention Operations, a very interesting course that will be starting the 24th of June and end by the 29th of June. You can see also that we have break days during these courses that we set to be Tuesdays. You can register in any of these interesting courses by screening this QR code. You can scan this QR code to apply to one or more of these interesting courses. I will be also sending the link to register for these courses in the chat. You can see it now in your chat box. Yeah, we also, sorry for scrolling. We also have a beautiful set of courses that we already conducted as live courses in the past and which are available now as recorded courses. You can see about 26 recorded courses in many interesting software used in the oil and gas industry like PipeSim, GAP, Prosper, FracCAD, OFM, Petrel, and also some technical courses like well control preparation, A3 hand sizing and software design, regulatory intervention, perforation design, introduction to data analytics. All these are provided by OBA Energy. You can also apply to these courses through scanning this big sale QR code. The more you purchase courses with us, the big the discount that we will be providing and offering to you. The link again in the chat box to register for one or more of these recorded courses. We have already conducted a lot of mentorship programs. What is different in this program is that you design your learning journey with us on your preference. You choose your instructor, determine what is specifically you would like to learn in this journey. Uh, Actually, very interesting one. You can also apply to this mentorship program in the link that I sent in the chat box. I really encourage you all to pay a visit to our website to see our offerings and recorded courses. Uh, a lovely design and arts are there for our courses. You can see them all. So pay a visit to our website to see these interesting services that we provide. We also have conducted two ground site internship programs for different group of students from Lebanon, actually. Uh, like in Beirut Arab University, this is some pictures and memorial pictures from these interesting visits with our interns. You can become an OBA ambassador just by joining us in one or more of these services, being an internship program, live course, recorded course, mentorship program. By joining us and being an ambassador with us will provide you with many beneficial services and discounts that we will be providing to you. Some rules before heading to our webinar today, and I'm really sorry for being long. I have already muted your microphones. Sorry for that, but this is for the clearance of the session. If you have a question during the session, please put it in the chat box, and I will be collecting these questions and reading it loudly to our guest speaker to answer them all by the end of the session. If you are joining us using your something like Galaxy or iPhone, you can rename yourself. As I mentioned in the chat box, we will be sending certificates of participation in this interesting webinar in 1 week from today. Thank you, and now is the time to introduce our guest speaker to all of you. Our guest speaker for today is a very special one. Ms. Ana de Sosa, a senior reservoir geologist with more than 25 years expertise in the oil and gas industry. She was responsible for Donga, I hope I pronounced it right, Donga field geology in Kazakhstan for development plans report analysis for the productive reservoirs and for team presentations. She has relevant working experience, including reservoir geology, reservoir characterization, seismic interpretation, and the use of innovative mathematical and statistical techniques as rock types and artificial neural networks classification. She has a set of strong skills in integrated reservoir characterization and modeling for multicultural and heterogeneous teams with excellent multidisciplinary knowledge in exploration, appraisal, and development projects. Also, several publications and presentations in different institutions around the world. A very big CV today to give us a very interesting webinar, Ms. Ana de Sosa. Please all join me in welcoming her to the stage. And now the mic is yours to start the webinar. I will stop share and you can share now.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the presentation about myself. It was a pleasure to be here. My presentation will talk about the different petrophysical methods for improving the properties in static modeling. And I will show you a case study. It's really, it was a green field at the beginning, 20 years ago, but now with time, it's a brown field. So basically, we know a lot of things about this field. My presentation will cover basically integrate. I decided not to present immediately the petrophysical methods, different petrophysical methods, because I think it takes a lot of time, and probably I can make a course or a few webinars talking about the different methodologies. So what I decided to present right now is the starting point, the point that you need to do everything before you think in a methodology for the petrophysics. So let me start saying that first I will talk a little about different data sources and what happened inside the framework. The importance of having a good coordinated reference systems and the different methodology for classifying rocks in petroleum industry. And that's what I mentioned before. It will be only very few, not so difficult petrophysical methods. Later, I promise that I will be more inside of this petrophysical and become more difficult for you and for me, of course. But it's the industry, and it's really what we need to do when we talk about petrophysics inside models. What I want to say more is to show a typical workflow when you do a static model, and we can be with different softwares, but also we can be with the common ones, and for sure you know exactly what I mentioned with common one. And again, I have to say that my advice and suggestions come from certain difficulties and problems that I faced along the time. And now I want to pass my knowledge for all of you in order to, in your career, don't spend so much time as I did facing these problems, okay? So our case study. So our case study in this case is located in Central Asia, in Kazakhstan. And you mentioned correctly, it's a Dunga field. And we knew already some characteristics because this field is a mature field. So we knew that we had several reservoirs already in production today, but at the beginning, we didn't know this. So we only know that we had only one production horizon that we could extract amounts of oil in very big field of oil. It was discovered in the middle of 60s, so long time ago. We know for sure that it was a highly heterogeneous and tiny bed siliciclastic reservoir, but nowadays we know that we have different reservoirs in the same field, like plastic, like carbonates, and also gas in one deepest horizon. We had then more than 120 vertical wells. We had also 12 core wells, plus 2 in deepest reservoir. Several open logs, a post-seismic dime cube, and a wide range of porosity and permeability. And this comes to be a big issue on this field. And we are in the presence of a light oil. Here is some examples that here is some examples that I want to show you, because it's, again, I'm talking about data, and all of these are data. Here is just a chronostratigraphic table. Let me see if I can put this with the point. Yeah, so you see better. So here is just a chronostratigraphic table that just allow you to find exactly, or more or less, where you are in this table. Usually we use this for explain to the managers that most of them don't know exactly what is geology, what is geophysicist. They know what they want to extract from this field is money, and that's what they want to know. But we try to explain to the managers where is at least the productive horizon located. On this central part of the screen, you have here an example of a 3D seismic inline. This is a very good line, in my opinion, because you can identify the horizon. And the first thing you have to do is to identify the horizon, the productive horizon, and try to do a quick seismic interpretation. Okay? On my right side here, it's the same. It's a seismic line. But in this case, it's a 3D seismic view. And what I want to show you here is if you change the color bar, and if you see color bar here is red, blue, and pink, if you change it, you can, for black and white, you can identify features that if you use this color bar, you cannot. So here it's very clear that you have here a channel, because it's important to identify channels. And because of you will see later that in channels, you still have some oil or gas there. On here, on the bottom part of the screen, on my left, you have here an example of a 3D seismic, 3D rock type static model. As you can see here, you need to put the histogram. And why? Because if you have here, three different possibilities. You have in blue, probably, I cannot see it, but I'm certain that you have here the results from the interpretation on your log. On the green is coming from your model, but without update. And then you do the update and you still have this, I think it's the blue. And you can see that if you just look these three colors in this type of rock type, this is the second one, you can see that the upscale is more or less equal as your model. So it's kind of great model. You can accept this model. This is a way that you can explain to your manager that this model could be the great model at this time, because each time you do a different rock type model, you include different data, more wells, more information, and you redo again the rock types. So probably this will be better with more information. On this part over here, you see just ASCII file. We will talk about the ASCII file. With ASCII file, you can see exactly, it's clear because it's a text file, sorry. You can see clear the coordinates from this case and the depth for this imagine this map. You are going to do a map with this file. And on this side over here, it's a result of using this file with the certain algorithms, and you got this representation. It's a map, and you can see here that your wells, and these are the red points over here, they are pretty well located on the highest part of your reservoir. Another example. Another example. This is a real situation again. On this part over here, you see they put on the field. So this is the field. You have also warehouses where you put the tools, and probably people are sleeping there because of the ships they have to change. And you still have deposits, pipelines, and this is the view from this field. And when you start an operation, you don't have all of these. So you just have deposits, you start doing the pipelines, and if you are just drilling wells, you start extend your pipelines to the wells, and your operation becomes bigger. In this part over here, you see just a guy that are measure pressure. It's in real time. The guy measure pressure, and that pressure are coming from for this guy that read the pressure and immediately an interpretation, and this interpretation comes to the center where geologists, geophysicists, and petrophysics and reservoir engineering are working with this data. And on this site over here, it's a real core data without any type of treatment. And you need, as a geologist or a petrophysicist, you need to come to this workshop to try to extract some plugs or some information from this core immediately, because the other guys that are in the center, they need that information to start doing the model. Okay. Now let me talk about integration. What is this? Basically, integration consists in you compile all your data, you do a quality assessment and integration of your data. But first, don't forget, and this is a recommendation or suggestion, before doing anything with your data that are coming in when you are doing your operations, there is a lot of data that are coming each minute to your center. I'm saying center as a point where you have all your team trying to read the data. But the first thing you have to do is just check the data, do a quality control. Don't import the data to your software, because later on you will have for sure problems, okay? So you need to combine, and also you need to combine data from different types and different sources. Imagine you are seeing data from seismic, you are seeing data from cores, you are seeing data from logs. You need to be sure that all of your data that are going to incorporate in your model has to be very clear and very well known. You cannot import it whatever it comes, because it's data, because if you don't know, you cannot work with that, okay? So the integration began with the incorporation of process, includes steps such as collecting, quality control, analyzing, mapping, and transformation, okay? And this is, again, one of the most important things that you need to do before starting your model. Now let's talk about this. And this is the different formats for your data. You can have, imagine, you know for your partner that you have a boundary. You need to have that boundary inside your model. So imagine also that you have there information that in this field you have roads, you have cities, you have topography, flow lines, satellite imaging, digitized, and you also have a central gathering facility. All of these are in ASCII format. Of course, this is data, and data is important. If you do quality control, you can import it in your model, and later on, imagine you need to explain to your manager, and this is a good, it's a good, beautiful thing to show that, okay, we have here roads, these roads are important, we have here flow lines, and you can show this to your manager. And also you work with that, okay? Well headers, for example, they are important, and the common format is in ASCII format. As I mentioned before, ASCII format, it's a text file. You can see what is inside of this file. You also can have well logs, and well logs, you have a lot of logs, different logs, for example, gamma rays, spontaneous porosity, resistivities. But you can have this information in different formats. In LAS formats, best way, the LIS, if you have, imagine, sufficient computer capacity, you can import LIS easily. The LIS, it's again a kind of LIS format, more difficult, but it's still possible. And also important to have is the core data. And special core data. Why? Because petrophysical guys worked with a lot of this data. you can extract from, call it this CCA, you can extract porosity, permeability from real rocks. Special core analysis, you can also extract saturations. And also these can work very clear, and you have image from rocks that you can associate it with your logs and your core. And you create a kind of a link that each point, you know exactly what is that, and it's a kind of, again, control of your data. Also important is the scales. You can have different scales when you do the reservoir characterization. It can be small, like nanopores, or large scales, like basin. Let me show. This is coming from an SPA paper. You have here the number. And I found this paper very user-friendly. With this paper, you can see exactly where is your data, if it is the scale is good or not, if you are like to use this inside the model or later on, you can extract this information. For example, if you work with the basin, see here, for sure you are working in a large scale. And what disciplines you can work with this scale? So all of these, you can work as a petrophysics and geology, and you can do these operations, okay? On this side over here, you can see that you can make correlations, you can study diagrams, and you see exactly the scale that you are working, okay? So let me continue. Again, what is the best files that you can have? ASCII or LIS? ASCII, as I mentioned several times, it's a text file. So each byte represents only one character according to the ASCII code. On the other side, LIS file is a binary file. And if it is a binary, you cannot extract information if you don't know the language. But for a geologist or a petrophysic, okay, we don't know, but the software can interpret this data. But pay attention to this. You can make a mistake when you import a binary file without knowing exactly what is there inside of this file. So basically, it depends of your data type, the size, and the purpose of that data. So when you are modeling, for sure, you can use all of these two types, ASCII and LIS. But it only depends of the company capabilities or on the records that are coming from the contractor. Imagine that you ask a contractor to do something and you don't explain that you need as ASCII because you want to understand your file. And suddenly your contractor decided it's a binary and that's it. And you have to work with that because doing again the same operation, it's expensive and your managers don't agree at all with this. So you have to accept that you have a binary file. So let's see what is a binary file. And you still have software that can interpret this and you can work with these files, but it requires special computers and a special space in your computer to do that, okay? So more information about what this is from my part, what I usually use when I have this type of issues, like weather, for example. I prefer to use Excel files. Excel software is very useful in modeling, in static modeling. It's the best, and also in reservoir engineering, also the best software that we can have. It's easy and very easy to see it and to interpret, okay? But imagine that you have well headers. You can still, all of these, you can still use the Excel. But well logs, for example, if you use Excel, it will be very hard and very difficult, and you have a lot of sheets with numbers, and you need to not to spend too much time in seeing all of this. So the best way it's use the LAS, not Excel. So you have LAS format, but you still have, remember, the list. For example, satellite image, they are coming basically from Google. Nowadays, Earth model, it's the best way to extract the location of your field and for showing, for example, to your, again, to your manager, where is the field, because sometimes they don't know exactly what we are speaking, and showing is the best way. Thin sections, you can use thin section with the bitmaps, with JPEGs, TIFFs, GIFs, or data, visual data. And seismic lines. Seismic data sometimes are very big and very precise when you need to import it. So you have to pay attention to that data, okay? And be careful, because sometimes we import the seismic cubes, and if you are not very precise, you have inverted cube, or you feel immediately that this is not okay. My horizon is not really, I don't have an idea that my horizon is here. So do it again, and anytime you have to do it if you don't feel that segue is correct, okay? More examples that I'm putting here. On my left side, let me just here. On here, you have a typical well survey. For sure, most of you saw this already, but this is normal survey. And you receive these normally in digital format and also in paper. But if you see in paper, you immediately can see if you have a vertical, if the trajectory in what system this survey was done, and you can control. On the center of the file, you have here again data that are coming from the field. This is coming from the exploration geologists that give you an idea, because you can see it without any, it's like real, and it doesn't have any, I don't know exactly the word that I have to say, but any constraints. So what you think it is what we put it here. Later, of course, when you have your team composed with different persons like geology, geophysics, and so on, these horizons or these targets are more controlled, because we know exactly that, for example, that information has to be with different meters, different more 2 or 3 more centimeters than what is showing here. So we correct this information. But you have already the good knowledge about what you see in the subsurface, okay? Now here. This is a well log file on this part over here, and if you read it, it's very easy. So what you see here is the starting and stopping point. You can see also the logs that were records, and you see that if you look here, the first log corresponds to here. The second log, you can see that this value corresponds to this log. You see, you can control this file. And with that, imagine that you don't need to import inside your model. You don't need to import, oh, sorry, I did something wrong. You cannot import it, for example, you don't need to import it, imagine the resistivities. So you just count these lines over here, and you don't import it this column, okay? Here is the result of this file, and you put it in one software. For sure, you can identify this software, but I'm not going to say. And you see that you have a pretty idea now where is the markers. and you can correct it with the well site geologist. Remember, the well site geologist give you markers. And here, for example, you have core data, real core data. You can see the lithology. You can take here plugs that are going to have the CCA, CCA report, and here also. And you can see these are different from here. So when you put this core data side to your logs, you can correspond and you can see why you have this peak over here. Maybe it's because of this. See? And this is very good, and you need also to do this. If you have core data and core pictures, put it inside your software and try to match your logs. It gives immediately an idea because it's real rocks, and this is just records, and you don't see it too much. And with this information, if you use it, it's nice. And from the core, you also can take plugs and you can take a trim. With trim, you can see it in the microscope. Let me see it now. Okay. Okay. With the microscope, you can see the grain size, you can see the lithology, you can see the diagens, and you can see also the reservoir quality. And this is very good to have it, okay? If you don't have this, you have to ask your manager permission to record this. Not all the wells needs to have this, but try to select some wells that you are certain that you will have some problems, you will change the lithology and record these points, and you will see this to be useful for you. It's very easy, a Google map, you can extract, it doesn't have to be very costly. You just take it up from the internet and it's very easy. Another thing, this is important, is to have some biography with books. You can see that, for example, this outcrop, it's similar to my field. So let me see outside what is my field looks like in the subsurface. And this is good. You can see that my horizons that I mentioned before, for example, the Aptian, I can see it in the seismic, but I also have here in one outcrop the quality and the shape of the Aptian. Here is again the seismic data and the attributes. You have here the presence of attributes. This is variance attribute. With the correct color bar, you can detect immediately features like this one. It's a channel, and also here. So it gives you more information that your data that are inside the seismic, usually you don't see it, but if you use special color bar or special attributes, you can see that information. And also for managers only, because really you have already idea where is your well, but you can show to the manager the field, the well locations using satellite image. Okay. Now I'm going to talk a little about one thing that it's also important, and most of the people don't pay attention too much, is the CRS. CRS is the Coordinate Reference System, and it's very complex, and you need professionals. It's not a normal geologist or a reservoir engineering that can help you with this. You need to have special people that study geography to give you an idea about this. But you can study for sure, and you can at least save money if you study a lot about this coordinate reference system. But each model needs to have a coordinate reference system. Imagine this. You are in the desert, someone give you a map and say, okay, let's find this well. and you have all of these. You don't know if no one tells you that, okay, you have here the map, and the map is with this coordinate, and you measure this, and the scale are that, and then you can find the well. Like this, give you a map without knowing anything, it's like you are, I don't know, completely lost here. So again, and I put this in this color, when using modeling software, select the coordinate reference system project first. First, you need to select these, okay, before starting a real model. Okay. If we don't choose correctly the coordinate reference system, we made a lot of mistakes. Position mistakes are very common and very frequently. We think that, oh, we know how to do it, we did it, but somehow maybe you did it wrong. Maybe it's not that one, and you make a mistake. And you know, mistakes are expensive. You are not allowed to make a mistake in this profession, okay? Making a mistake in a location of a well, you are saying that your well can be in a street or in water. You cannot make these mistakes. So, common mistakes. Sometimes you drill wells in the wrong location. Sometimes your target, it's incorrect because of you made a mistake in geosteering. The wells can intersect adjacent boreholes because they are work positioned incorrectly. They can cross one each other because you are just seeing wells on the surface, but the trajectories of the wells can cross and make a mistake, a real mistake. Again, seismic sometimes had to be reprocessed because of mistakes, and position errors are very frequently, okay? As I mentioned before, errors can be extremely costly, dangerous for workers, catastrophic for the company reputation, and repetitive. Imagine, I have this idea because of BP, remember the operation in BP, a wrong mistake puts the operation in danger and people, and now the company is suffering the consequence. So try to avoid these mistakes. The Earth can be described in terms of coordinates. It's called coordinate reference system. So the data will have same coordinate reference system, or it will need the transformation from one to another. You can change one system to another. Imagine you have partners, and the partners don't work with one system, but work with another. But if he knows what system you are working, they can change and transform your system in their system. So it's possible, okay? So again, it's always useful to have an idea about what map projection and what CRS, coordinate reference system, will be correct one for our project, okay? And here is some examples. You have already in different softwares this information. They make a kind of catalog with different coordinate reference systems. And you also can make your own coordinate reference system. If you know the spheroid, if you know the ellipsoid, if you know several issues, you can make your own coordinate reference system, okay? You have this information, but this information you can make yourself if you know it. And that's why I said several times that you need special people. You cannot do it alone, because you can make a big mistake here and it change all your projects, okay? And all your results and all the operation that you are doing, it's a mistake. Now, because it's one of the issues that I put in my title is methods for classifying the rocks in the industry. As I mentioned at the beginning, that I said that I'm going to speak only about these 4 methods. They are very simple. because if I have to speak more in detail in the other methods, I need more time. And I decided, since it's the first webinar, maybe the second, or maybe a course, I don't know, I will speak a little more about these other methods, okay? But these methods can be applied in reservoir, clastics, or carbonates. So classical method of stratigraphic modified Lorentz plot, it's called SMLP, R35, flow zone indicator, and rock quality index. Okay, starting from the beginning, the easy one, the classical method. It's used, but not really useful. We just can have an idea about the distribution of our porosity and permeability in cores. We are talking just in cores, and our rock typing, okay? So classical maths for rock typing is based on simple logarithmic regression estimation permeability from log derived porosity. So here you don't have information about geology or anything. You just have values for data values, okay? And it's very simple. It's and gives simple correlations. So it can skip experimental scattering and predict simplistic smooth permeability distribution. I'm going to show an example. For example, this one. This part over here, it's the convention core analysis. And this part over here, it's also convention core analysis, but in more detail. So what you see here is just porosity, depth, porosity, plugs, permeability, and pore saturation, and some description of the lithology. With this information, and also these, you can use in Excel. That's why I said Excel is our best friend when modeling. You can create your own Excel file, and with that file, you can create this simple chart with a regression. So I have here permeability, core permeability versus core porosity. So I make a regression line, I have an equation, and in each point, I can take my permeability value from my core porosity, okay? So this is the most simplest method, and it was useful long time ago, but not anymore. So now we are going to talk another one. It's stratigraphic modified Lorentz plot. It's more elaborated. So it's an important technique that defines the minimum number of flow units in the same rock type. So it relates source capacity with the flow capacity, okay? And with that, you can see that flow capacity, storage capacity relates porosity with the difference in each core in depth. And flow capacity relates the permeability with the same difference in each core. Okay? So the results from this, we can create a chart, and the steeper slope represents the better flow unit in the reservoir. Each change in the slope assumes to be a different rock type. So it give you immediately an idea about the number of the rock types that you have in your reservoir. And it's good to have this idea, okay? Each change in the slope or rock type must be validated with core lithology or core porosity. You cannot just say, okay, this is just one rock type. You have to confirm that rock type. So as you see, you are doing a very careful and quality control each step of your model. Okay, don't forget, you need to do very careful quality control each step. You don't, if you skip one step, you will find a mistake at the end. Okay, So again, using the Excel sheet, it's very useful. You can make charts like these ones. And if you see here, this is the same. I just put here the slopes. Each change can identify a possible rock type, okay? And you make this type of sheets where you put the porosity, the permeability from the cores. You relate porosity and permeability here, or permeability and porosity. You have here the difference in each core. You have here the stored capacity, flow capacity. You do a cumulative storage, cumulative flow, and normalize. Normalize means that you normalize from 0 to 1, and everything has to be in that interval, 0 to 1. And it's give you this type of charts. And if you change the slope, you have a possible rock type or something. And you need to confirm using the lithology, using the core information, and sometimes you need to use the logs, because you can put inside to your log the core. You have to shift the core. You have to be careful when you do that, but you can do it. Okay. Another method is the R35. Okay, R35. It's again, we are increasing the difficulties and in the quality of the petrophysical methods. So Winland 35, it's a method that was introduced by Dale Winland long time ago again. And it defined the method as being the pore throat size at each 35% of pore space that are saturated with mercury, and is considered as the largest connect pore throat in the rock in intergranular porosity. And I forgot to put this, okay? So this is an equation that Winland defined. And again, if you see the equation, it relates always porosity and permeability from pores. The difference is this constant, and also the saturation in mercury that are in 35%. Okay, and it's an empirical law, of course. We are just increasing the complexity of the different methodologies for petrophysics calculations, and you got a chart with semi-log cross-plot permeability versus porosity, and include this opaque throat line. And with this stratigraphic modifier Lorentz plot, you have R35, now I'm going faster, reflects the deposition, diagenetic fabric, and influence flow fluid and reservoir performance. Imagine you are increasing, you are inputting more information in your charts. So with this, you already have this information for the positional, diagenetic, and influence of the reservoir performance. So you see these charts, and Excel again is your best friend here. You can work with this and you create this type of files. So you put porosity, permeability, you make the calculation using this equation over here, and you create these charts by creating a new permeability. That means that these mistakes are divided by these depths, and you can populate this new permeability over here, okay? And you do this for one well, you mix, imagine that you have 3, 4, 5 wells with core information, and you put all this together and you get this type of charts. And you can see that here you can easily identify 1, 2, 3, 5 rock types, okay? 5 or 6 rock types, okay? And if you try to be more careful, you can see here that maybe if I define here a new rock type, I can have one more. but it is useful, it's the worst. So it doesn't matter if I divide these in 1 or 2, because it doesn't, this is my worst rock type with low permeability, low porosity, so it doesn't matter if I divide these in 1 more. The best is this ones, and here I think this is okay. Oh, sorry, made a mistake again. So another, we have flow zone indicator. It's another methodology. And again, more information are coming from these, okay? And for example, flow zone indicator and rock quality index are still largely used in AMAFU equations. So he did that in 1993, so it's not so far, but still it is useful and used in the industry. So why? Because we have 3 simple equations, this one. So we need to do a porosity normalization. So we need to define the defective porosity, and we do the normalization. We also have the rock quality index. Still, the equation is the same. We need the permeability, and we need the defective porosity. And flow zone indicator, it's the rock quality index. So you have one more item that will show you the quality of your rocks and normalization. You can make charts again, and can be clustered into families with similar range of flow zone indicator and rock quality index. Now here we have advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is very easy and pragmatic approach, just 3 equations. The disadvantage, again, it's purely petrophysical approach. No geological information is used. Does not consider sedimentological and positional environment. If you do this type of charts, you don't have real information about the geology. It's completely different if you put one sample in one position that are in different environment than the other sample. It's completely different, okay? However, it can be used for detecting rock types using scripts and charts. Now I'm going to show the results. For example, here you find 4 clusters. Why? Because these wells, imagine the geology decided these wells have similarities in the rock, in porosity, similarities in permeability. So let's put this in a cluster. Here it's another cluster because of these similarities. So this is the cluster map that we decided. Now we need to do the calculations. So flow zone indicator, and my diagrams are like this. My histograms. So I can create a range. So I say that this is from this point to this over here. It's one rock type or one flow zone indicator. Here is another and another and another. Okay. So from here, we can decide, okay, maybe in my field, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 possible hydraulic units of flow zone indicators or rock types. You don't know for sure now here with this map. So in here, you plot the rock type, the rock quality index versus flow zone indicator. And you can see that you have here the same groups as you have at the beginning. So this division, probably this range are correct because of this confirmation. And finally, you just put another chart, and you have similar to Winland, if you remember. You have the steeper slope. It's the best hydraulic or flow zone indicator, okay? But you do this just to confirm that, okay, in my field, I have this number of flow units, okay? So then you need to work with that and see if your logs correspond to the same divisions of units. And when you finish this, I presented for only varying these methods, petrophysical methods, you have to think, okay, let's make a model. So for making a model, you have a typical workflow. This is just a typical workflow. And again, if you see this, it's different type of data. You have core data. You have informations that you can read from books. You can investigate what possible conceptual model you can see in your field, and you also have logs, and logs can define electrophysics, mineralogy, and you can see this. This is not a fixed way. You can just change. Imagine I see this, I decided for this conceptual model. Okay, let's see what happened in my course. And then let's go again to see if I have it here. This conceptual model are linked to my course. I need to drink water. And for example, the same with logs, okay? And you need to identify geobodies, especially if you are in carbonates, you need to identify geobodies. Slope geometries, again, you need to know if you are in this part of the platform or here, you need to know. And this you need to study and to read and to interpret your data. Tectonic interpretation also important, and also the sequence stratigraphic framework, and also to include the diagrams. Okay, diagrams is really difficult to understand, and sometimes our model skip the diagrams and someone decide, okay, diagram is important, let's see the diagrams, and we can change all your model, okay? It's very difficult, and pay attention to the diagrams. This is just two simple highlights that I mentioned without that. So on this slide, and we are almost at the end, we have here a workflow for modeling software application. It's very common, for sure you know where these workflows are coming from, but it's the steps that you need to do when you want to calculate at the end your volumes, and you need to show the volumes to your managers. Imagine that you do everything with only one objective, to show your manager, to buy your concession or to allow you to continue your operation, but you have to show something important to your manager. If not, your manager will try to give up the field or put you in employment. You have to be very certain, okay? This is just a kind of workflow for you to see that if you do rock type model or facies model, you need to link to the other properties. You cannot skip the link. So if your rock type is the good rock type, you need to have porosity on that this particular part, a very good porosity and a very good, very good permeability and your saturation, okay? Then you can calculate the volumes of swipes, okay? Finally, this is my last slide. I'm going to give you some advice and suggestions, because I suffer from my life, really from my mistakes. I learn a lot from my mistakes, and I prefer if you can continue your work without these mistakes, because you know already the solution for these mistakes, okay? Before you begin a model, collect all the information. When I mention collect, just grab the information in a paper format, in the digital format, whatever. You put everything in the right folders, and when you somehow decide, okay, I remember that I read something, you go immediately and you have that information there. Don't skip this step, because if you make a mistake here, it will be worse. Do a very strong quality control of your data available. Of course, you have to do this. If not, your model, again, it's a mess. Think and decide which approach better suits for your project. Remember, I just showed you 4 different easy methodology for petrophysics, but we have more. But you have to think and decide what will be the best approach. This is the one. I can try first the simple, then I'm going to elaborate more and become more difficult, and I can get more results. They are strange for me. I need to do again. So it's a kind of a cycle. You start and go again and continue. Then you think, okay, this is not correct. Come back again to the initial point and decide another thing. But this is the way that all the models must be done. Then, of course, for everything, choose the correct coordinate reference system. And units. You cannot start in feet and then decide to go to meters if you are in the middle of your model. It's completely wrong, okay? You get wrong things. Keep a record and document everything for future reference. We have good memories for sure, but with time, we forget things. And we start thinking, okay, I remember that I did something like that, but you need to put this information in some Excel sheets or in Word, something, but you need to record all this information for future, okay? And again, if you make a model, and then you make a picture, just capture the image and save it. Don't throw it away, because suddenly that picture is the correct result, okay? And when I say the correct result, sometimes you did several experiences and the first one was the best and you don't have it anymore. So keep always the image. And the best model is the one that is built with a clear objective in mind, okay? Now I will I finish my presentation. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, I talk about more my own experience, my own face problems, and I think I try to give you some solutions and to avoid these problems. If you skip these problems, you at least you earn time, and time is important when you make models. So let me ask you questions if you want to ask questions. But for example, it's just a quiz. So it's very quick. I will ask you, what do you need to do before starting a model? Someone wants to answer? I will give 1 second. No. So from these 3 options, correct coordinate reference system, nothing important, or just a powerful computer and an excellent software, what will be the choice? Okay, I will answer. The choice will be the correct CRS. I start my presentation of talking about corrections, and very good choice for coordinate reference system. What is data integration? So data integration is not a necessary step. Do you agree with this? You can skip this step? No. So data integration consists of data compilation, quality assessment, and integration. This is what I mentioned from the beginning. Everything must be done, and after quality control. With quality control, if you do it, it's safe. You are working in a safe model. The integration can be done by just using one data source? No, of course not. You are working with different types of data source, and you need to do the quality control. Usually, when we do the common mistakes, it's if you drill the well in the field, this is a common mistake or not. Wells miss their target to the correct geosteering. This has to come with the coordinate reference system. If you drill a well, you need exactly to know where is that well. If you someone give you a piece of paper saying just go there and drill a well. You need to know the coordinates, okay? This is just a silly sentence, but really you need to know where is the well in the coordinate reference system. The wells intersect adjacent boreholes because they were positioned correctly. This is the questions. If we intersect another well, probably we have really problems. And imagine in the subsurface two wells that cross each other in the same depth. It's really a mess, okay, believe me. And if you do seismic and you find that seismic is not correct, you need to do a reprocessed seismic, you need a lot of money to do that. And again, your manager will complain, and it's not really a fun mistake, okay? And again, what are the different methods for classifying rocks in the industry? I show you only from easy methods. So you remember classic one, stratigraphic modified Lorentz plot, R35, and flow zone indicator and rock quality index. What are the disadvantage of using only one Hammerful equations? Can you tell me what is the disadvantage of doing that? No, I can say, so I can say for you. So the biggest disadvantage is it's a purely petrophysical approach. You don't have there information about geology, about the metallurgy and positional environment. So it's just purely petrophysics, it's just mathematical things, okay? What are the important technique which allows immediately the minimum number of flow units in the rocks? If you use, for example, I skipped my word. Okay, let's see. If you use the flow zone indicator and the rock quality index, you have an idea about the flow units in the same rock. But also, you can have an idea if you use stratigraphic modified Lorentz plot, correct? So, I hope you enjoy this quick webinar. And if you have questions or concern, please ask me. And this is just a sentence. Usually I have this in my computer. Keep calm and do a great model. So as you know, no model is the correct one, but all models are wrong. We have to choose the best one from the wrong. Okay, that's it. Okay. I don't know how to stop this, but I think I need to stop this.
You can keep it.
Huh?
You can keep it. It's very...
Yeah, okay, so I can keep it, yeah, because I don't know what to take it out, okay? So, okay. There's questions for me?
Yes, sure. We received some questions during the webinar, and I'm sure that we are going to receive more. So just for now, I'd like to say thank you for this very special webinar from your side. It was very organized webinar and detailed as well. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us. Before I go to the questions, I'd like to share a feedback form link in the chat box to get your feedbacks on our webinar today. So the link is now in the chat box. Please take a minute to fill in this form. I'd like to remind you that this was a very useful presentation about the use of different petrophysical methods for improving the properties in a static model with a case study. Ms. Anna has already shared her expertise with us and discussed some of the very interesting items here, like integration of different data source in modeling framework, the importance of a good choice of the coordinate reference selection, also different methods for classifying rocks in the petroleum industry and modeling workflow with software application, and also has shared with us some interesting advices and piece of advice and suggestions as well. Um, I hope that you filled in the feedback form, and now I will go to the questions. We have a question from Borgi. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. His question is about saturation. He's asking how to determine saturation for each rock type when using HFU workflow.
Yes, yes. What can I say? Getting the saturation from core data or from logs, it's a really difficult problem, and we need to use all different types of information. For example, rock types. You have, at least when you're doing your core conventional core analysis, you have one sample that sometimes you get that information. You have saturation. This is the first point where you have saturation. And you also have sometimes also the saturation logs. When you use the rock types and you have rock types inside the model, you can generate a synthetic log for the rock types, and you can correlate that synthetic rock type log. You can correlate it with porosity and permeability and also with saturation. But you have formulas. You have saturation height function, and this will take us for at least half an hour to explain. So my suggestion, and since you are asking, maybe I can organize a webinar and I have examples, real examples in a different field, but also in this field in Kazakhstan. But I can show you what I did with this saturation height function and that you are talking about also. And I can give you that information in a webinar, and all of us will learn a little with that. What do you think? You agree with me? Because it will take time, and I see a lot of questions. What do you think? You want me to explain, or you prefer to wait for a future webinar? I think it will be easy to make a webinar with this.
I think you have a generous offer for us now that we can have another webinar with you. That's very interesting.
Because it's a real. We have a lot of equations. We have a lot of softwares that can help us with that, and I work with one. And I think it's interesting if we explain this with pictures. I cannot access the software, but pictures, you have equations, and you need to understand the inside of these equations. So I think I need at least one webinar to explain, okay?
So that's very great. Thank you for answering this, and for sure we can consider another webinar offer from you. We have another question from Karim here. He's asking, can we use the ditch cuttings and or mud logging for determining fishes distribution? He's asking also, especially in case there is no cores at all.
Yes, you can use MudLog, but believe me, MudLog gives you an idea. It's not completely certain, because you have to think that some tools are going there and suffering some dilatation, something that can corrupt the information. And really you can use for sure. If you don't have anything more, you can use, but the best way is to get the logs, not the MudLog. MudLog is the first approach of your data. It's like, I was trying to remember what I said because I have examples, but if you use only MudLogs, no, you cannot do that, okay? You need to have a full package of the data. You need to have logs. You cannot have cores. For sure, there is certain fields that they didn't have cores. Sorry, they didn't have cores, but you have logs, and you can work with logs. And if you work with logs, you probably don't use this equation that I show you, but you use the information from the logs. It's not, you need more, but for sure you can work only with logs, okay, but not completely with mud logs. Okay, mud logs are important for getting informations, but not this type of information. Okay, you have more questions?
Yeah. Yes, yes. We have a question from a very active participant here is usually asking us in our webinars. We have a question from Fasih. He's asking about the accuracy of those rocks models against real values.
Rocks models against, sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Against the real values, actual values.
Actual values, okay. So what is the questions? Now I understand they are talking about rock and action values, but what is the questions? Sorry.
Okay, Fasih, if you can give us more information about your question. I can read it again. He is asking about what is the accuracy of those rock models against real values. I'm not sure that it's a clear question or we need more information. So if you can share with us, please.
Yes, please, because I could not understand correctly and maybe the answer will be wrong, okay?
Okay, we can go for another question for now. We have a question from Amani. She's asking, how can she determine between homogeneous reservoir heterogeneous reservoirs from well data?
If you look for the logs and if you look for SP or gamma ray, you feel immediately if your curves are smooth or if the curves are with a lot of peaks. You feel that. Also in the cores, you can see the heterogeneity of the reservoir. Okay, because each peaks, if you have a smooth curve, that means that your lithology, I'm talking about the gamma ray and SP, it's homogeneous. So you don't have a lot of heterogeneity. But if, for example, if you have a lot of peaks changing the location, going up and down, you see this is an heterogeneous field, okay? But you need more information for sure. But if you only have logs, you can say this type of things, okay? Did I answer your question?
Yes, I'm sure that's enough for the question. We have a very long message from Israel. I'm not sure that what his question. So we have a message. I can read it from Israel. He's thanking you for the presentation, and he would like to say that we have always to doubt about any software, and if possible, try to make a double QC in Excel or any other application or on every step of the geo model before and after properties population, even when we are building the structural model. Sometimes applications have basic mistakes, and we use that drawing information from the beginning of the modeling. Always having a good communication with our petrophysicist, seismic interpreter, geologist, and reservoir engineer. Scales are important depending on the time a company has been working on a field. But I think most of the time, geomodelers and the petrophysicists can solve it and find a way to represent the complexity of the fields. So if you have a comment on this.
Yes, I agree, totally agree with the Valencia Flores. I think it's your name, but it's correct. You need to spend time thinking about the data, reading the data, and working with that data in a way that it's useful for you and for your model. and you can extract something important. And be sure that the most important thing that you can give to your managers is the start, the correct start, at least with this model. Okay, so all you do, the final objective is to give the start values, the most correct ones. Okay, you can have a range saying you have more or less 10 or 20% of this, but the most important thing is to give to the manager this information, because at the end they are going to say, okay, let's continue the operation, let's sell this, that. So they are the deciders. We just are working for them. Okay, so I agree with all this long sentence that I can read it also, but you need to work not individually, you need to work as a team, and your team must have geologists, geophysicists, petrophysicists, reservoir engineering, the production engineering, exploration and geology, all of them, because all of these minds can create or can generate a good model that solves the the problem that we start at the beginning. Imagine this field, I need to know the start from this field. So you have to work in collaborative teams to answer these questions. You cannot work alone, because it's in old times that geologists work only in their office, and the other guys, petrophysics, worked in another place, and they didn't talk with each other. But nowadays, the good idea and the best practice is to talk to each other. So, and talking with people, it's important, because they have sometimes kind of different ideas, like you don't think about that, but that guy thought and give you that thought to you, and you start, okay, that's a good idea, let's do that. And if you work alone, you just you go in a straight line and you just cross something, and it's like you face the car and you go directly to the car and you died, because, and if you have some guys that can pull you for a different direction, it helps you. That's my opinion. Okay, so if you can work as a collaborative teams, put all the people talk with each other, because doing that you have better results. Don't forget each time to see your data, because data talk, you think are just numbers, but numbers talk, and some image also talk. Some informations from the outcrops are, imagine, far away from you, but they are similar to your reservoir. What you think about your reservoir also talk. So get all of this information and you can build a very nice model. And believe me, a good model, it's not possible, but at least you have a model that can give you informations about stocks and can offer that values to your manager, and the managers can decide about the field. Okay, this is my opinion.
Thank you for sharing your opinion on Valencia's comment here. So this was the last question for today. Thank you all for attending and for staying with us till the end of the webinar. Thank you again, Anna, for sharing your expertise. You did a great job, actually, and you are an expert with this.
Yeah.
So
and if someone have questions, you have my email there, and it's also 330 Gmail. You can ask me questions, and I can help someone if they want. I can help. Okay. Because
yeah. Definitely.
I don't know everything. Sometimes I say several times to my colleagues, I don't know. Each time I start something, I don't know how to do this. But after reading, after thinking, after talking with some others people, I can generate a model. So, and models takes time. You cannot make a model like, okay, I start today, tomorrow I can give you a model. It's not possible, okay? Believe me. Models needs time. They are like babies. They need 9 months to be a baby. So models needs, I don't know, not 9 months, but they need time to become a baby model, okay? This is my funny suggestions, okay?
Yeah. Thank you for the advice. I totally agree with you. A model is something that you start and you update it with the time. Some information start to show up after some time, and you have to feed your model with this information to get the best case.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So nice to meet all of you. Hope you learn something, or at least to remind something that sometimes you, okay, let's skip this step. Don't skip, okay? My advice, don't skip. Do it. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
And have a nice night, and keep calm, and again, keep calm, and what I put it here, and do a great models, okay? This is my advice to all of you, okay? See you next webinar, okay? Or course, whatever. I will try to get the answer for saturations for you, okay? I didn't forget, okay? I did not forget.
Thanks for that.
Bye-bye. See you. Bye-bye.
See you everyone. Thanks.